Today's lesson is on quadrilaterals. The first quadrilateral we're going to learn about is the trapezoid. The trapezoid is a quadrilateral with exactly one pair of parallel sides. The parallel sides are called bases. A pair of angles that share a base and have a common side are called a pair of base angles. So we'll start this with a pair of parallel sides. So we'll draw that one and that one. And then we can just connect the corners. So we know in the trapezoid that these two sides and only those two sides will be parallel. So these two sides are called the bases. Now the base angles are these two down here or these two up here. Both those would be considered base angles. A kite is a quadrilateral with two pairs of distinct congruent consecutive segments. The angles between each pair of congruent sides are called vertex angles. The angles between each pair of non-congruent sides are called non-vertex angles. So we can say, draw a kite the best I can here. That's as good as I'm going to get it. So these two sides would be congruent, and these two segments would be congruent. Now, I should probably do this myself. This angle and this angle we'll call non-vertex angles. Whereas the top angle and the bottom angle we'll call vertex. Now location is not important, except whether they're on top. Orientation, I should say, is not important. It's actually, the vertex angle is the angle between two congruent sides. These two are congruent, so that would be a vertex. The non-vertex angles are the angles that are not in between. So this is not congruent to this, so that would be non-vertex. A parallelogram is a quadrilateral, both pairs of opposite sides parallel. So we have something like this. Hope this works out. These two sides are parallel, and these two sides are parallel. Notice that we need to mark it with 2 because these are not going to be parallel with these. So we need to distinguish between them. A rhombus is like a parallelogram, but it's equilateral. Let's just say it's like this. So all these sides are the same. But we also know that this side is parallel with this one, and this side is parallel with this. So it's parallelogram, but it's also equilateral, so all the sides are the same one. A rectangle is an equiangular parallelogram. So if I pull up my rectangle, all the angles are going to be congruent. And most people probably know that degree measure. These sides are all parallel. So it's a parallelogram, but all the angles are going to be congruent. Now, a square is an equiangular rhombus or an equilateral rectangle. It's just a combination between a rhombus and a rectangle. So all the sides are going to be congruent, and all the angles are going to be congruent. So we have all the angles congruent. We have all the sides are congruent. And the opposite sides are parallel. I'm not going to add that in or it'll get a little messy. But hopefully you know that these two sides are parallel and those two sides are parallel. So if we make a tree diagram for quadrilaterals, so quadrilaterals can branch off into some different categories. First thing we learned about was trapezoids. Then we also learned about kites. And parallelograms. Now, all three of these are completely different. Now, you can't have a parallelogram that's a trapezoid or a trapezoid that's a parallelogram. However, parallelograms we can break that down a little further. These can be broken down into rhombuses, and rectangles. Now, a combination of rhombuses and rectangles will give you squares. Now, from this tree diagram, we can answer some questions. Is everything below is whatever is above it? So, is a square a parallelogram? Your answer would be yes. Is a parallelogram a quadrilateral? Your answer would be yes. Is a square a kite? No, a square is not a kite. So, and a square will never be a kite. Is a rectangle a trapezoid? No. A rectangle is a parallelogram, though, and a square is a rectangle. Now, is a parallelogram, are all parallelograms going to be squares? No, there's a lot of different parallelograms than just squares. There's rectangles, rhombuses. Squares is just one specific type of a parallelogram. Alright, and that's it for today's lesson.